Hey everybody, welcome to Math Monday. I'm Julie Newberry, a 4th grade teacher at Cloverleaf, and I'm going to do the video a little bit different today because I'm going to video myself showing you some things on paper rather than at the chart tablet. I have noticed over the last few weeks, and I've actually noticed it a lot, but I've noticed it more so over the last few weeks, that there are all these videos that scroll across Facebook where there is a teacher modeling how we are showing children to multiply using the distributive method or using the matrix model, which is the box you guys see. And then on the split screen, there's someone making coffee, and they do it the way you and I learned it, using the standard algorithm, and then someone shows the teacher modeling it using the box method. And they're trying to make a point that the older way is quicker and that the way we are teaching multiplication is absolutely ridiculous and takes forever. And then I read the comments of everyone, talking about how crazy our new math is, which is not new math at all, guys. I think it's just misunderstood because no one's ever explained it to anyone. So it drives me crazy reading the comments because I know that it is clearly just a misunderstanding. And I'm just going to show you some ways that we teach children to multiply, and I'm going to try to explain why it is being taught that way a little bit. So maybe those videos that we see rolling across Facebook won't have such a negative impact because you will really know the purpose of it. All right, so up in the right hand corner, you guys see the way a problem set up the way that you and I learned it when we were in school. This is called the standard algorithm, and it is very efficient and it is very quick if a child knows all of their multiplication facts perfectly, they have a complete full understanding of place value, and they have a complete and full understanding of regrouping. When you think about this method, it is easy for you and I as adults because we've already learned it. That's why it's quick for us. That's why it's easy for us. But guys, that's not the case for children. Once a child has a complete, full understanding of place value and regrouping, and they know all their multiplication facts, this is a very efficient and quick way, which is why we like it. But guys, I just have to be honest with you. This method leaves a lot of room for mistakes when you're talking about a child using this method, because a child or a student this is brand new to him or her, they don't have that complete 100% grasp of all of the things that you need for this method to work so well. So I'll just go ahead and do this so everybody knows. Okay, 9 times 3 is 27. The student would have to know to start right here and put the 7 in this place value. They are going to have to memorize to carry or regroup the 2. Then 9 times 7 is 63, plus 2 more is 65. They have to know to put the 5 here, carry the 6. And then 9 times 2 is 18. Plus 6, 24. And they're done. So that's easy enough. It's easy if a child understands the regrouping and they understand that this is not really a 7, it is a 70, and this is not really a 2, even though we say 9 times 2 to a student or a young child. That is very misleading because we're saying to them 9 times 2, but that does not equal 2. The value of this 2 is 200. So this can be very confusing to a student who has not already memorized. And I want to point out the word memorized. When we were taught this method in school, the way most of us were taught is the teacher showed you the steps and we just practiced over and over and over and over, and you were told to memorize how to do it. There was no explanation of why it works. There was no explanation of why it ended up giving you the right answer, or why you had to place things in a certain column, or what it meant when you were regrouping these numbers, because you were just memorizing the steps. It meant nothing. These methods that we are using now are basically setting the stage for the child to be able to do this. We are not trying to prevent them from using a quick, efficient method, but we are basically we are explaining why all of this works, and we are trying to make sure that they have a true understanding of multiplication, which makes it a lot easier for the student to be able to do this in the future. In other words, we don't want the students to just memorize steps. That is great for kids who are good at memorizing. That is great for kids that can sit and pay attention to the teacher and who can focus and who can watch the teacher do something and then, regurgitate it back out onto the paper. And guys, it's just not the case for a lot of kids. There are not a lot of kids who can just watch a teacher do something and they can just memorize it and turn around and do it themselves. That's actually very stressful for them. It's great for the kids that can do it. It's very stressful for the ones who cannot. So the way that we are showing multiplication now is setting it up where everyone can be successful and they can really understand what they're doing so they can ultimately do this easily, if that makes sense. Okay, this is a much better example of why it is very confusing for a child to learn the standard algorithm unless they know all of their facts. They will make constant mistakes. If they have any misunderstandings about place value, they will make constant mistakes. If they have any misunderstandings about regrouping, they will make mistakes. It makes it very difficult for them. Okay, so to do the standard algorithm, we all know you do 4 times 6 first. You have to put the 4 here because we are in this place value. And then you have to carry or regroup the 2. 4 times 5 would be the next step, which is 20 plus 2. You have to know to go here and to put that 2 here. 4 times 2 is 8 plus 2, 10. Then the children really get lost unless they are excellent at memorizing, which is not our goal in math anymore. Our goal as math teachers is to make sure they understand, which is very different than memorizing. And I know you guys can relate because there was a lot of math that I was taught in school that I had no idea why it worked. I had no idea what any of it meant, and in a lot of cases I didn't know how I was going to use it in the real world because math instruction was based on memorizing. That is not what we want our children to do. We want them to understand it. Okay, so at this point the child would have to know that this place value cannot be used anymore. They would have to know that we are not using these anymore. We are not using this anymore. And now we are going to start with the 8 and say 8 times 6 is 48. 8 times 5 is 40 plus 4 is 44. And 8 times 2 is 16 plus 4 is 20. And if you can tell, guys, this is actually very confusing to a child. I know that parents can fly through this method, but that's because we did it for so long, y'all. It's easy to the adults because we memorized it. But when you are looking at an 8, 9, 10-year-old child who has not memorized it, this is a nightmare for them. It is very confusing to just remember where to put all the numbers. Our goal is not to remember where to put the numbers. Our goal is to make sense of the numbers, and then you will automatically know where they go if you understand it. All right, so then we add 4, 8 plus 2 is 10. We have to regroup again. We called that carrying when we were kids. 4 plus 1 is 5. 1, 2, and you're done. This is actually a very long, complicated method for a child. Most of our children do not have their multiplication facts memorized, so that gives them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chances to make a mistake. They have issues with place value, so if any of this second row is written down in the wrong spot, the entire problem is going to be wrong. A lot of them do not have a complete understanding of regrouping, so if there's a mistake in any of this part, or even right here, there literally are so many chances for them to make a mistake. And the standard algorithm, or the way we were taught, is very fast and is very efficient once you have 100% mastered it. But the road to mastery of this method is very long and very difficult and very stressful for kids. So the way we are showing them now in the beginning, because we do eventually go to this, I'm sure your middle school and high schoolers multiply this way. This is the end goal. But in the beginning, we show them a much easier way for them. It may not be a much easier way for the adults who have mastered it, but it is for the students. So they have to understand that this represents 200, this represents 70, and this represents 3. So the students, in essence, are going to multiply 200 times 9 plus 70 times 9 plus 3 times 9. And that is basically what they are doing when they solve it this way too. It's the same thing. It's just easier for the kids. All right, so 2 times 9 is 18, and then they know that because it's 200, we need the 2 zeros, plus 7 times 9 is 63 with the 0, plus 3 times 9 is 27. Then they simply add this up, and they're done. This is actually not a more complicated way. It is very easy for the students. They know this is worth 200, they know that's worth 70, and they know that's worth 3. They don't have to worry about regrouping to make those numbers worth what they're worth. They don't have to worry about place value. They only need to be able to do mental math. All right, now on for the dreaded box that everyone loves to crucify on Facebook. Everyone just goes crazy over this box and they think that it's just the worst thing they've ever seen. And really, the videos where they're trying to show how much quicker this is than this is invalid, because they're showing a video of the teacher who is teaching it very, very slowly and explaining every single step, and is in essence doing a lesson. And in the other video, they're just showing someone who is an adult who has mastered multiplication just rolling through the problem as fast as they can go. So the video is very misleading and very invalid. I can solve this problem using this method as quickly as an adult could do this. If we sat down together and we did these side by side, I could do this probably faster than I could do this. But when you're explaining it, it's going to be much slower. Actually, I didn't mean to do, I'm not going to do a 3 by 2. I'm just going to do a 2 by 2. All right, so we all know this is 50 and this is 6. This is worth 80 and this is worth 4. So the kids just split them up into what they're worth. And then they multiply everything using mental math, which it's much easier to multiply when you are using multiples of 10 instead of doing all this regrouping. And then in this method, you don't have to worry about making sure you're in the right place value. All right, so 8 times 5 is 40. And then the kids know that that's really 50 and 80, so we need our 2 zeros. 6 times 80 is 480. And they can do this. They do have this memorized, not memorized, but they can do mental math. They know what 6 times 80 is because they know that 8 times 6 is 48 and we need the 0. 5 times 4 is 20 with a 0 because it's really 50 times 4, and 6 times 4 is 24. Then they simply add all that up. And they're done. Guys, it's that simple. This is really not a complicated method. It is much easier for children. When they are using this method, they only need to know how to multiply. They do not need to remember that I need to put an X here and I need to mark these out and I need to start my second line of answers here, because most kids are going to start with 8 times 6 and they're going to put their answer here. I've taught it this way for years before I started teaching it this way, and most kids mess up every problem at this step because they start with putting the 8 here and then the 4 here, the 0 and the 2. Or they do not regroup correctly. This is very complicated for a child who does not have all of these skills mastered. This method does not require them to have any of those skills mastered. It just requires basic multiplying. So yes, we are teaching them this way and this way, which is the distributive method. That's what it's called, because you are distributing this number. You are breaking it apart into its pieces, 273. We are distributing 273 out and multiplying each piece by 9. Same thing here. So, okay guys, there you go. That's all the different ways that I have seen argued on Facebook. I assure you that our goal as teachers and as curriculum developers is for children to be able to do this in the most efficient and quick way possible. We do want them to be able to do it quickly, because yes, the one thing that is true about all of the complaints I've read on Facebook is, in this world, efficiency is what is necessary. Being able to do things quick and accurately is the best way. You'd be surprised how many children can do this quicker than the adults can do this. You just have to trust me on this. All right, guys, so there you go. Now you'll understand what the crazy homework is your kids are bringing home. Y'all have a great day. Thanks for watching.